Namaste and good morning to all of you. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Bho Bhuva Swaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat, Asto Ma Satgamya, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गम्य मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गम्य ओम सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहि तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहि ओम शांति 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 ओम. On Thursdays we are studying Kathopanishad. We just started it last week. And this Upanishad is a conversation between Yamraj and Nachiketa. Nachiketa is only a young boy, 8 or 9 years of age. So we were on verse number 4, where Nachiketa, the young boy, he is in the courtyard of his father's home, and his father's name is Gautam also. Okay, there are several names in the scripture we see for his father. So he's in the courtyard and he is saying that father has done this big yajna. And with this big yajna, the purpose of this yajna was to get the fruits, Ushna. So it's like a desire prompted yajna he did. It was not a selfless yajna, desire prompted. And Dakshina and the Dan is very much a part of the yajna. And his father knew that. But for Dan or Dakshina, all he's giving is something which is useless. Old, barren cows. So this young boy, he was very familiar with the scriptural teachings. So he looked upset from father's action. But he didn't know what to do. But at the same time, he couldn't stop himself. So he goes to his father and he said, Father, to whom will you give me? He said it once, twice, and then third time when he said, the father got enraged. He said, unto death do I give thee. Okay. Mritve tvam dadami iti. So you can see that there was a sense of attachment in father's, from his actions we can see that he was attached to the wealth. A lot of time we do the same thing. We are so attached to our physical wealth. We don't follow the scriptural injunctions. Okay, so this is what he is doing. Let's look at verse number 5. That's where we're going to start today. Bahunam evi prathamaha, bahunam evi madhyama, kinsvit yamasya kartavyam yat mea adya karishyati. Bahunam, of many. That means of many disciples or many sons. Me, I go. Prathama, first. Bahunam, of many. Me, I go. Madhyama, the middle, the mediocre. Kim swit, what might be? Yamasya, the Lord Death. Yamraj. Kartavyam, duty. Yat means which, maya by me, adhina karishyati can do. Nachiketa thought, after hearing his father's words, he thought to himself, among many, I am the first. At times, I am mediocre. That really means that I was never a third-rate son. What is the undertaking of Lord Death that is being achieved through me? So he's thinking it to himself that my father said, to death I give you, there must be some deeper implication. So he's pondering over and digesting the circumstances. And this is a true sign of a good disciple. As we learn, as our intellect is growing, the cloudedness in our mind, the doubts from our mind, they should go away with the help of the contemplation. Especially during challenging circumstances, when everything is okay, it's very easy to see what to do, what not to do. But when something this challenging comes, when most unexpected developments happen in life, we should be able to draw the messages from our teachings. Otherwise, what is the purpose of learning? What is the purpose of studying all these scriptures? And like a true matured intellect, he quietly goes on the side and ponders over it to analyze, to discriminate, to judge, to see what he needs to do. He knew that in reference to the knowledge of the scriptures, the sacred words of the masters, there is a duty we need to do. Because his father was not just a father only, he was his guru also. So with reference of the execution of the duty to a guru, disciples are classified under three heads. The best, the so-so, and the bad. The best ones are those, they even read the mind of the guru. Their wish is always to serve guru. They are so much connected with guru. Guru doesn't even have to say anything and they'll do it. And so-so are those who are definitely obedient. Guru says something and they do it. So they're always waiting for the order from the guru. They have not reached to that kind of a subtlety where they can connect with the mind of a guru. So whatever guru says, they do it. They are mediocre. And the third one, the bad ones, the worst one are those who fail to execute even when commanded by the guru. So he says that I was never the third one. Sometimes I'm the best. Here and there, I was a mediocre also. So he says he's thinking to himself, according to this scriptural injunction, exactly what should I do? Because my father said it from his mouth that I give you to death. So he said, he's thinking that there has to be some deeper meaning behind it. I am not going to compromise, because ordinarily a person will say, no, maybe my father did not mean it. That's a justification. He says, I'm not going to compromise the Sanatan Dharma Shastra. Because he knew that compromise really means I am just looking for my own convenience. I'm justifying because I don't want to do what the father said. And that's why he's wondering what is the great work that will be accomplished by Yamraj through me, because I am being sent over there. See, just like Lord Ram did. He could have said, no, I'm not going. I've been promised this kingdom. Father never said that from his mouth. But Mata Kakai said that this is the promise he gave me and this is what I ask. And what did Lord Ram do? Right away, he said, I'll do that. And this is what Nachiketa is doing. So there is a very sacred tip for all true disciples who are really seeking for the ultimate goal of life. Because Nachiketa knew that my father did not mean it. But I must do what came out of his mouth. There are many other stories also in the Puranas where we see that a disciple who followed the words came out of the Guru's mouth. What did they attain? That's how the ordinary man becomes a God man. That's how they reach to that self-perfection. They totally turn themselves into that, the Brahma. He said, my Father's words are always immutable words of the divine will. So Nachiketa, a young boy, true to this eternal principle, wants to act upon the words of his Guru, his father. Even though they were said in anger. Said in anger. He knew that also. So what is the great mission that is to be fulfilled by Lord Death? Through this. My Guru's words can never be in vain. That's what he's thinking. Then he says, Anupashye yatha purve, pratipashye tatha apre, sasasye iv mrityaha pachyate, samsasye iv ajayate punah. Now he go to his father. See, Upanishads are not, you're not supposed to read just like you would read a history book. There are a lot of things which are not said in there. We have to just imagine. We got to use our intellect, the higher power. So he just went on the side, thought about it, drew all those scriptural injunctions, and then he goes to his father to get permission from him. And his father must have said that, no, don't go. I didn't mean it. But he knew that the words came out of my father. There has to be some meaning behind it. So now he says, Anupashye, remember, yatha, how, purve, our forefathers. Pratipashye, consider, tatha means thus, also, apare, others. That means the sages or holy people. Sasyam iv, like corn. Iv means like, sasyam means corn or any kind of a grain. Mrityaha, mortal. Pachyate, decays. Decays means it ripes and then it falls. Sasyam, corn. Iv means like, ajayate, born. Punha means again. So Nachiketa is saying to his father, remember how our forefathers acted. Consider also how other sages and the saints act. Like corn decays the mortal and like corn, it born again. So if I am going to Yamaraj, it's not a big deal. I have taken births many, many times before. This mortal comes just like a grain. We take birth and then we discard the body. We take birth again and we discard the body. So this verse is directly addressed to the Father by the Son. Remember that. So this particular verse contains the essence of the wisdom of the Upanishads. Or you can say that cream of the entire Sanatan Dharam. So this is an inevitable philosophy of a rebirth, which is a backbone of the Hindu faith. We were before, we will be after. Why get attached to this temporary? This is what he's telling. We get attached because we don't see the whole picture. We don't want to understand the whole picture. And when we get attached, we don't even do what we need to do. What we have come here for, we just forget that. So very sublime truth that our present existence is not accidental happening. There is a definite measured link shaped out by ourselves. It's not somebody else's shaping. It's our deeds, our actions, our karmas. Physical also, mental also, verbal also, which makes the chain of life complete. That's how we are connected from our past with the unborn future. Future we have not seen, but future is dependent upon the present. Past we don't have any control. When past was present, we had the control. Right now we don't have a control. Future we have not seen, but present. So that's what Nachiketa is doing. He says in present, this is what's happening and I should not worry about it. This life, this mortal life is just like a corn. Okay, like a seed. You grow, plant comes, it decays again, and more seeds come. Many, many incarnations taken by the ego in us in the past. And it will continue. As long as the ego is there, it will continue. Because of the ego really means attachment or identification with the temporary is the ego. As long as we keep on identifying ourselves with this temporary, we will keep coming back. And if we come here, we'll definitely go. This whole cycle will end only when we start to identify with the eternal in us. This is what we have to understand. So birth, growth, decay, it's just like any seasonal weeds. So Nachiketa is hinting to his father that this life must necessarily end, and after a period of existence, he says, if you look at the totality, the lifespan of any individual is only momentary actually. We think that 60, 70, 80, 90 years is long. It is momentary. Our ego makes it such a big deal out of it. So this general import suggested in this verse is that life is so fleeting. Why should we stoop down to do the adharam? And in his mind, adharam is not minding his guru. That is adharam. Because we get tempted by our own delusions and false attachments, and we just stoop down to adharam. So this is a very strong argument raised by this young boy to help his father to come to a final decision and allow this young boy to leave for the palace of death so that he can fulfill the words of his father. The words came out. He says, they can never go in vain. See, in order to discriminate between dharam and adharam, there are moments when we get very confused. And over here, Nachiketa also, they are showing it to us with the help of these very condensed verses that Nachiketa went on the side and contemplated upon it. What is dharam? What is adharam? Sometimes it's not very clear to us. So that's why we see that in this great scripture, that not knowing what is dharam, what is adharam, he just goes on the side and he comes up with this answer and he says, Father, this is I need to do. And he says, remember how forefathers acted. This is the reason we do the Shraddhs. This is the reason we do all those great festivals in our culture. To remember how the forefathers acted. What kind of a lineage we are following. That's why we celebrate Guru Day also, Mother's Day also. This is the reason. We have made all those days into very superficial day. But these are to contemplate and to find out what is a dharam for me, what kind of a path I'm walking on, and which path will take me towards the highest. Remember how our forefathers acted. Consider also how other sages, holy men of today act also. It's not only in the past. The great gurus were not just only in the past. Today is also in the society we see great people. But we got to have that kind of an eye to really see what are they following. Because our own judgmental mind, we just only find the flaws. Even in a great person, we find only the flaws. So, but Nachiketa is telling us differently. So, very significant advice which is to be noted by all of us. At moments of moral and ethical challenges in our lives, it is not always possible for all of us to keep cool or bring our senses of judgment and discrimination to work out the pros and the cons. If I do this, what will happen? Am I following the lineage of the great gurus? Or am I just following my own temptations? Because it's very easy to justify. So this is what we learn over here. Because he is providing us with a final verdict also to do the right action. So this is a very practical tip for all of us. Vaishvanaraha pravishati atithi brahmana grihan tasye etam shanti kurvanti har vyavasvat udkam. Vaishvanara, like fire, pravishati, enters, atithi, guest, brahmana, Brahman, grihan, house. Tasya, to him, etam, these, shantim, the quietness, kurvanti, they do, har means fetch, vyavasvat, the son of Vivaswan, that is like a sun. Udkam, water. A Brahman guest. So now, it's talking about Nachiketa. He's a Brahman boy. After saying that to his father, he just goes to Yamraj, the house of Yamraj. A Brahman guest enters a house like fire. Men give this water to quieten him. Oh, Vashwat, fetch water. So between the previous verse and this verse, there is a dramatic silence. And the knowledge of this story comes in the other parts of the Vedas also. And it's explained over there that it was a formless voice that directed the boy to the palace of death. So he left his father, and this voice carried him towards the palace of death. Because he comforted his father with those words, and he moved to act up to the high ideals. So young boy left his home, entered the domain of death. He arrived and he waited there actually. Because Lord of Death was not there. That is what's in the story in the other parts of the Vedas. He wasn't there. He had to wait for 3 days and 3 nights. So Lord Death was not at home, and disciple had to wait 3 days and 3 nights. It was almost like a self-imposed discipline of fasting. So this story wants us to understand that a certain amount of self-discipline and self-control need to be practiced by all the seekers. If you want to be in the company of a perfect guru. Because in this scripture, in this Upanishad, the guru is a Yamaraj. So 3 days and 3 nights, he just stood outside without eating or drinking anything. And Brahman word is a Brahman guest really means a noble, cultured man of purity, righteousness. It's almost like a double-edged weapon in our scriptures. This kind of a person who comes, sure, he is doing the discipline, but at the same time, where he has gone, those people are not supposed to leave him outside. Okay, so on one hand, Brahman boy is doing he's perfecting himself with that kind of a discipline, but the people over there did not recognize him, and they did not invited him in either. So the comparison of a guest with the fire is very appropriate over here. Because in the Vedic period, or even now also, we worship the fire. But at that time, it was very common. Yajnas. So he is calling that Brahman boy as a fire. We are supposed to worship him. And we did not worship him. We left him outside for 3 days and 3 nights without even water. And fire also means fire has the power to burn us. So this Brahman boy, even though he's a boy of 9 years of age, he has power. He can burn. So that's why Yamraj, when he comes into the picture, he understands this. So first of all, Brahman means one who has the necessary cultural purity. Yesterday we were talking about the culture, the Sanskriti. So Brahman is that. Mental and intellectual power is over there also. That's what Sanskriti gives. It sharpens our intellect, sharpens our mind. So that Brahman boy had all that. Ashaha pratikshehe sangatam sunritam cha ishtaha purte putra pashun cha sarvan etat vringte purushasya alapamedasa yasya anshanan vastihi Brahmanaha grihe. Asha means hopes. Pratiksha means expectations. Sangatam, company. Sangatam, like a company with a good person. Soon ritam, friendly discourses. Su always means good. Cha means and. Ishta purte, charitable deeds and pious deeds. Ishta purte. Putra, son. Pashun, cattle. Cha means and. Sarvan means all. Etad, this. Vringate, are destroyed. Purushasya, of the man, of the person. Alap medsaha, ignorant. See, alap means small, medha means the intellect. So that's why it means ignorant. Yasya, to whose, anishnan, without taking food. Vasti, stays. Brahmana, grihe, in the house. Grihe is the house, Brahmana. Hopes and expectations. Fruits of company with good people. Merits of sweet and friendly discourses. Beneficial results of sacred sacrifices. Charitable deeds. Pious gifts. Sons and cattle. All these are destroyed in the case of an ignorant person in whose house a Brahman guest stays without taking food. Who is saying this? Yamaraj is saying it. Because by this time, the Lord of Death, he came over there and he saw this young boy standing outside without food, without any welcome. So he says, this is what happens if we behave like this. See, first of all, this asha, hope means wish for something unknown. That means heaven, asha. We always want something good to happen in the future, asha. And pratiksha means looking forward to the obtaining of a known. It could be a material wealth, it could be a relationship, pratiksha, expectation. And there is another term very important, vringate, in the second word, in the second line, vringate. Vri means to cover or to surround. Vri. So this Brahman wrenches away all the above mentioned, all those things in the first line. See, asha pratikshe sangatam sunritam cha ishta purte putra pashun cha sarvan. The above mentioned from the person who does not respect the guests. That's what he's saying. So this particular verse enumerates the consequences which we will have to live through as a result of a deliberate insult to a man of knowledge and culture. Okay, if we deliberately do this, this is what will happen. This is from the scriptures. That's why the Yamraj is mentioning it. Whether he is thinking it to himself or whether he is saying it to somebody over there. So that means a householder who insults a saintly guest is called by the Shruti as an idiot. Alpamedsa. That's why we see this very much part of a Hindu culture. No matter what time a guest comes into our house, we are ready to serve, we are ready to cook, ready to feed, whether it's a lunch time or not. That a hospitality. In the concept of Sanatan Dharam, there are panch yajna a householder is supposed to perform. And over here, The import is that Yamaraj is a house of Yamaraj, so he's a householder. House. Panch Mahayagya. And one of those Panch Mahayagya is Naryagya. Naryagya. That means anybody who comes to our house, we are supposed to feed them, take care of them, respect them, give them seat, offer them water, food. You must be wondering, what are the other 4 yagyas? There's a Bhoot Yagya, there's a Dev Yagya, Pitri Yagya, Brahm Yagya. And then I already mentioned Nar Yagya. And actually this Nar Yagya also means seeing the God in that guest. Narayan Bhav even in that Nar. So Bhoot Yagya, Nar Yagya, Dev Yagya, Pitri Yagya, Brahm Yagya. The Shrads which we celebrated, they are part of that Pitri Yagya. Be thankful to your ancestors. Do not just keep finding faults in them. See the God in them. In the guest also, see the God in them. In these elemental forces, Dev Yagya, see the God in the water, God in the air, Agni Devta, Varun Devta, Prithvi Devta, Devta everywhere. Householder is supposed to do this. This is for the householders. This is the point he's making it to us. Let's look at one more verse. Tisraha ratrihi yat avatasihi grihe me anishan brahman atithi namasyaha namate astu brahman swasti me astuhu tasmat prati trin varan vrishniv. Tisraha, 3. Ratri, nights. Yat means as. Avatasi, you have dwelt. You have stayed. Grihe, in the house. Me means mine. Anishan, without taking food. Brahman, oh Brahman. Atithi, a guest. Namasyaha, that's a salutation. Venerable. Namaha, prostration. Te means to you. Astu, be. Brahman, oh Brahman. Swasti, good, auspicious. Me means to me. Astu, befall. Tasmat, therefore. Prati, in return. Trin, 3. Varan, boons. Vrishniv, you choose. Lord of Death is talking to Nachiketa. He said, oh Brahman, you, a venerable guest, has dwelt in my house 3 nights without eating. Therefore, choose now 3 boons in turn, O Brahman. My prostrations unto thee, may good befall me. So Yamaraj is saying that to that little boy, that this wrongdoings has happened, even though it happened in my presence. I mean, in my absence, I was not present here. But I want to rectify that. Please take 3 boons, ask for 3 boons so that I can correct it. So the spirit of this verse is the true spirit in which the Aryans accepted and followed their immortal Sanatan Dharma. Because sometimes it seems that such a godly power as the Lord of Death himself should bow down in modesty in front of his guest, a little boy, and begging him to pardon him. But over here we are seeing this is what Sanatan Dharam is. Our ego is the one which does not let us apologize. That's why we see the problems in the society. We don't even like to apologize to the elders, sometimes to the teachers also. But over here, Lord of Death is apologizing for his unintentional misconduct, begging the Brahman guest to accept in return an atonement in the boon, in the form of those 3 boons. See, he has the power to give the boons, any boon. But he knows that what has happened in my house, I will definitely pay for it. I cannot give those boons to myself. That is the law. But he is in the position where he can give the boons to that little boy. This understanding we should have. The law of Dharam. Follow the law of Dharam. And there's also an undercurrent of compliment paid by the Lord Death to this Brahman boy. Because he sees that this little boy is a true Brahman. True Brahman means he has all those qualities in him. So that's why he is showing prostrations and a reverence to him. Okay, so he's not, it's just like a lot of deep meaning in the Upanishads we see. And ultimately we got to bring these qualities in our life also. To expand our knowledge, expand our understanding. The more expansion, the more clarity. That's what we need to do. When we expand even a towel, we shake it. What happens? Whatever is trapped in it, it falls down. Whether it's a dirt or whether it's water. Expansion happens. And this is what happens to our intellect also. When we expand our intellect, the flaws, they fall down. That is the reason we study these scriptures. So now we'll see next week, starting with verse number 10. Because so far only, this is like the story, in the form of a story, the scripture is starting that a young boy, he saw what his father did, which is not according to the scriptures. The yajna what he was doing and the dan he was doing, the dakshina he was giving. And then what happened to him, he took it very seriously. And when he goes to the house of the Lord Death, he goes there and he is not respected there by anybody. And when Lord of Death comes, how he is telling us that how should we take care of our guests? What should we do? And if we don't do it, what are the consequences? He's mentioning that also. All the good deeds you did, they'll go away. So these are some of the undercurrent messages in these verses over here. Okay, so let's stop it here. And first day we do the meditation also. But before the meditation, a few questions if you have, we'll go through it. But next week we'll start with verse number 10. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you.